The night is not quiet. The storm beats against the stones, and the sky itself seems to hold its breath. In the heart of the highlands, one woman fights against time, against fear, against the darkness that presses closer with every passing minute. Tonight, Julia will bring life into the world, but at a cost no one can yet see. The wind howls outside the stone walls, rattling the shutters as if the night itself wants to force its way in. Inside, a small fire burns low, shadows dancing across the wooden beams. The air is thick with fear, the kind of fear that is both silent and loud and spoken, but felt in every hurried step, every whispered prayer. Every glance exchanged. Julia lies on the rough bed, her face pale, her hair damp with sweat. Each breath she takes is sharp, breaking the silence like a blade. Around her, the midwives move quickly, their hands steady but their eyes betraying worry. They know what is at stake tonight. It is not just the birth of a child, it is the future of a family, the survival of a bloodline, perhaps even the fate of clans who whisper of prophecy and power. A cry escapes Julia, echoing through the chamber, carried by the storm outside. One midwife grips her hand tightly, whispering encouragement, but her voice trembles. Another pours water into a basin, the rippling surface catching the glow of the firelight. The scent of herbs lingers in the air, their smoke meant to chase away evil spirits. Though none are certain it is enough. Every corner of the room seems alive with tension. The shadows stretch and curl, almost like watchers waiting for the moment. Outside, the storm lashes the earth, but beneath it all there is another sound, a low, rhythmic beat, faint yet constant. It could be thunder, it could be footsteps. But to those in the chamber, it feels like something more, something ominous. Julia's breathing grows heavier, her grip crushing against the hand that steadies her. "Stay with me," the midwife urges, but Julia's gaze drifts, unfocused, staring into the dark beyond the flickering light. For a moment, it seems as if she sees something the others cannot. Shapes in the corner, figures beyond the door, waiting. Her lips part as though she wants to speak, but only another cry comes out, a sound filled with pain and fear and determination all at once. A figure enters quietly, cloaked and wet from the storm. His boots drag mud across the floor, but no one rebukes him. There is no time. His eyes sweep over Julia, then to the midwives, and finally to the door, as if he expects it to burst open at any second. He says nothing, but his presence alone fills the room with another layer of unease. The hours stretch thin. Every moment feels eternal. The storm grows louder, the fire burns lower, and Julia's cries echo until they become part of the storm itself. The midwives whisper to one another when they think Julia cannot hear. They worry about the blood, about her strength fading, about the child not yet ready to take its first breath. Still, Julia fights. She grips the sheets, her body trembling, but her eyes blaze with something fierce. She will not surrender, not tonight. And yet, beyond the walls, danger gathers. There are men on horseback, their torches faintly visible against the black horizon. They move slowly, silently, like predators closing in on prey. They do not ride for celebration, they ride for blood. And whether they know it or not, what awaits them in that stone chamber is more than just a birth. It is the beginning of a story that will not end with them. Inside, Julia screams again, louder than before. The midwives shout instructions, moving faster, their voices overlapping, their fear breaking through. The cloaked man steps closer, placing a hand on the hilt of his sword, his eyes fixed on the door. He knows what is coming. He knows this night is about more than life, it is about survival. The storm rages. The fire flickers and Julia's child waits on the edge of the world, ready to draw its first breath. Even as shadows close in, the storm does not ease. It beats against the walls with a fury that feels alive, as though the heavens themselves rage at what is about to unfold. Every gust of wind shoves against the stone, every clap of thunder shakes the room, and yet inside, a different storm grows. Louder, a storm of screams, whispers, and fear. Julia writhes on the bed, her face pale, her body weak, but her will unbroken. Her breath comes fast, uneven, as if each gasp might be her last. The midwives work with desperate hands, murmuring words of comfort that sound hollow even to their own ears. Sweat runs down their brows, mixing with the smoke of burning herbs that coil through the room. The smell is sharp, clinging to every corner, a reminder that this night is both holy and cursed. One midwife bends low, her ear pressed against Julia's belly, listening for the faint sound of life within. For a moment her face tightens, fear flickering in her eyes. She looks at her companion and shakes her head ever so slightly. The other midwife's lips tighten, but she does not speak. Words of doubt have no place here. Not when Julia is watching. Them with eyes that burn with both terror and hope. Outside, the storm hides another sound, hooves pounding against wet earth. Torches bob in the darkness, faint but growing closer. The cloaked man at the doorway stiffens, his hand resting firm on the hilt of his blade. He does not move yet, but every muscle in his body tenses like a Volf ready to strike. His eyes flicker. To Julia, then back to the door. Two duties war inside him, protecting the child about to be born, and holding back the danger that inches ever closer. Julia cries out again, her voice raw, tearing through the chamber like thunder itself. She clutches the hand of the midwife beside her, her grip so fierce it draws blood, but the midwife does not pull away. She leans close, whispering, "Breathe, child, stay strong." Yet in her voice there is a tremor, a fear she cannot mask. She has seen too many births turn to funerals, too many mothers fade into silence before the first cry of their child. The fire in the hearth sputters, smoke curling upward as if the air itself is thinning. Shadows crawl higher along the walls, stretching long fingers across the ceiling. Julia's eyes flick to them, wide and unblinking. She whispers something, words no one else can understand. Perhaps a prayer, perhaps a name, or perhaps something darker, something only she can see in the shifting shapes. The cloaked man steps closer to her, his shadow falling over her trembling body. For the first time he speaks, his voice low but steady. "You must endure, this child must come." His words cut through the chaos, sharp as a blade. Julia looks at him, her eyes filled with both fury and despair, and shakes her head. "I cannot," she gasps, her voice broken, but she does not stop. She fights. She pushes. Outside, the torches glow brighter, closer now. The riders dismount. The sound of boots splashing through mud cuts through the thunder. The storm covers their approach, but the cloaked man hears it. He draws his blade with a slow hiss of steel, his face set in grim resolve. He knows they have minutes, perhaps less. Inside, the midwives cry out, urging Julia on. Her screams rise higher, a painful symphony blending with the roar of the storm. Her body shakes with the force of it, every muscle straining, every breath a war. Blood stains the sheets, and the midwives exchange frantic glances, their whispers. Sharp, urgent, desperate, then for a moment there is silence. The storm still rages, the men outside still advance, but within the chamber, everything holds its breath. Julia lies still, her chest heaving, her eyes closed. The midwives lean over her, one calling her name, the other pressing a cloth to her brow, and then another cry. Not hers this time, but faint, muffled, from deep within, a sign of life. The midwives straighten, hope flickering across their faces. "The child comes?" one whispers, her voice trembling, but as the sound of the baby stirs the room, another sound rises, to the thud of a heavy fist against the door. The cloaked man turns, blade raised, his body a shield between Julia and the darkness beyond. The night is not done. The danger is here, and Julia's child is moments away from stepping into a world already drenched in blood and fear. Asterisk, the fist against the door comes again, harder this time, shaking the frame, sending dust down from the beams above. The fire crackles, spitting, sparks as if it too senses what is about to unfold. Julia screams, her voice breaking into the storm, and the sound is answered by the echo of steel scraping against wood outside. The cloaked man stands tall before the door, sword gleaming in the dim light. His eyes are narrow, unblinking, locked on the wood that trembles with every strike. He knows the strength of that door will not hold long. Behind him, the midwives cry out, one pressing a cloth to Julia's brow, the other urging her to push. To fight, to bring forth the life she has carried. Julia's face twists with agony, but behind the pain there is a fierce, glow-raw determination, primal and unyielding. She is breaking, yet she is also unbreakable. Each contraction tears through her body like lightning, but she clings to the bed, to the voices urging her on, to the faint rhythm of a heartbeat inside her. Another slam. The door splinters, wood cracking under the weight of fists and shoulders. The cloaked man tightens his grip, shifting his stance, ready to strike when the inevitable comes. His cloak falls back, revealing scars across his arms, the marks of a man who has seen too many battles. Yet tonight feels different. Tonight is not war against men, it is war against fate. Julia lets out a cry that shakes the walls. Her body convulses, every muscle screaming, every vein burning. One midwife kneels low, shouting that the child is coming, that they must hold steady, that this is the moment. The other clutches Julia's hand, whispering prayers in a voice thick with fear. The door crashes inward, shards of wood flying across the room. Men flood into the chamber, their faces shadowed by the storm's glow. Steel glints in their hands, torches spit sparks onto the floor. For a moment, time seems to stop the clash of two worlds colliding. Life and death. Blood and birth. The cloaked man moves like a shadow unleashed. His sword sings, striking the first intruder before the man can even raise his weapon. The chamber erupts into chaos, steel against steel, firelight against darkness. Screams of battle mingling with Julia's cries of pain. The storm outside howls, a wild orchestra to the violence within. One torch is knocked to the ground, fire licking across the floorboards. Smoke begins to coil upward, thick and choking. The midwives cough but do not falter. Their hands stay firm, guiding Julia through the storm of her body even as the room around them becomes a battlefield. Blood splatters against the stone. The cloaked man fights with a fury that seems inhuman, his blade carving arcs of silver through the air, but for every man he fells, another steps through the doorway. Their shouts rattle the chamber, their boots shake the floor, their hunger for violence nearly drowning out the fragile, trembling sound of life beginning. Julia pushes again, her scream piercing louder than the clash of steel. Sweat pours from her face, her body racked with agony, but somewhere deep within her she summons strength beyond reason. A cry rises, not hers, but higher, smaller, yet stronger than anyone expects. The child's first sound, carried through smoke and blood, piercing the chaos like light through a storm. For an instant, the room freezes. The midwives gasp, their faces streaked with tears. Julia collapses back against the bed, her chest heaving, her eyes wide with disbelief and relief. The baby's cry fills the air, fragile yet powerful, drowning out the clash of blades and the roar of thunder. The men who storm the room falter. Their eyes shift to the source of the cry, confusion flickering across their faces. Some step back, unsettled, as if the sound itself holds power. The cloaked man seizes the moment, driving his sword forward, cutting down another enemy before the trance can break. The midwife lifts the child, small and trembling but alive. She holds it high, her voice breaking as she shouts, "The child lives!" Julia weeps, her tears falling like rain, her body limp but her spirit blazing in that single truth. The chamber is a storm of screams, steel, smoke, and blood, but within it, one sound rises above all others, the cry of new life, and yet the danger has not passed. More boots thunder outside. More shadows wait beyond the broken door. The storm is far from over, and Julia's child, though born, has entered a world already at war. Asterisk. The storm outside begins to slow, but inside the chamber, the air is still, thick with the taste of blood and smoke. Broken wood lies scattered across the floor, torches smolder in the dirt, and the scent of iron clings to every breath. The clash of steel has dulled now, replaced by groans, the scrape of boots, and the sharp, unyielding cry of the newborn. The cloaked man stands among the fallen, his sword dripping, his shoulders heaving. His cloak is torn, his face streaked with both sweat and blood, but his eyes remain sharp, watchful, waiting for the next shadow to step through the broken door. Yet none come. The attackers have pulled back into the storm, leaving only silence. and unease in their wake. The midwives huddled near Julia's bedside, their hands shaking but steady enough to cradle the child wrapped in a rough cloth. The infant's cries fill the chamber, raw, untamed, the only sound that seems alive amid the wreckage. They hold the child out to Julia, their voices trembling. He lives. He is strong. Julia stirs weakly, her eyes opening just enough to see the small form placed against her chest. Tears stream down her face, streaking her pale skin. Her hands, shaking from exhaustion, cradle the child with a tenderness born from agony and love intertwined. She whispers something soft, barely more than a breath, a name perhaps, or a blessing. The midwives strain to hear, but the storm outside swallows the word. The cloaked man steps closer, his shadow falling across mother and child. His sword lowers, its point dragging against the stone floor with a tired scrape. For a moment, his hardened face softens as he looks upon the infant. Yet beneath that fleeting gentleness lies something darker knowledge. He knows the birth of this child is not just another life entering the world. It is a turning point, a spark in dry kindling, the beginning of a fire that will not be easily extinguished. Julia's breaths grow weaker. Her chest rises and falls in shallow waves, her strength slipping away. The midwives press cloth to her skin, whispering frantic words, urging her to stay, to fight just a little longer. But Julia's eyes are distant now, drifting beyond the chamber, beyond the pain, as though she already sees something or someone waiting in the shadows beyond life. The infant wails louder, as if sensing the fragile thread that binds mother. The child may soon be cut. Julia's trembling hand strokes the baby's cheek, her lips curling into a faint smile even as her body fails. "You are my light," she breathes, her voice nearly lost to the storm's dying growl. The midwife leans closer, tears spilling down her own face, trying to hold Julia in the world with nothing but words and touch. The cloaked man looks away, jaw tight, as if the sight wounds him in a way no blade ever has. He turns his gaze to the shattered doorway, watching the storm, waiting, calculating. He knows the enemy is not gone. They will return. And when they do, it will not be for Julia, but for the child now crying in the arms of fate. Thunder rolls one last time, deep and low, before the skies begin to calm. Rain softens into steady drops against the stone. The fire flickers, throwing weak light against the chamber walls. Shadows stretch across the broken floor, pooling like blood, shaping themselves into warnings only the cloaked man seems to understand. Julia exhales a final breath, her body stilling, her face at peace. The midwives weep openly, clutching the child close, as though their arms alone could shield him from the darkness that has already marked his life. The cloaked man sheathes his blade, his eyes cold and distant. He kneels beside Julia's still form, his voice a whisper too low for anyone but the dead to hear. Then rising, he takes the child into his arms. The infant's cries echo louder, filling the chamber, reaching beyond stone and storm, carrying into the night like a signal to all who would listen. Outside, the riders linger in the distance, their torches like eyes glowing in the dark. They do not advance, but they do not leave. They wait. The cloaked man holds the child close, his voice steady now, sharp with resolve. "The world has changed this night," he murmurs, "and it will never change back." The baby's cries soften, as if soothed by the warmth of his chest. But in the silence that follows, the storm feels far from over. The battle is only beginning. The screen fades to black. Final. T's voiceover, Outlander, Blood of My Blood, Episode 6, The Night Julia's Child Was Born. And destiny awoke.